In a world where law firms constantly miss out on new leads due to sloppy legal intake, and often because they just aren't answering the phone, two marketers aim to provide a glimmer of hope.
Like, I thought we agreed we weren't going to do the announcer thing.
Thank God, because that hurts my throat. You do the intro.
Gladly. I'm Tony Prieto, and this is my colleague Nick Werker. Believe it or not, we're marketing professionals.
Well, I think you're the professional, but we are true experts when it comes to all matters legal intake.
For over a decade, our company, Answering Legal, has helped ensure that growing law firms never miss out on connecting with new leads.
And now we're ready to share our trade secrets and help make the legal world a better place.
Or at the very least, help our listeners shore up their lead capturing processes and convert more callers to clients.
Welcome to the Legal Intake Experts Podcast.
Let's dive right in.
We are back once again on the Legal Intake Experts Podcast presented by Answering Legal. I am one of your two hosts, Nick Werker, joined as always by my co-host, Tony Prieto. And there is an invisible man. His name is Producer Joe. He is here producing, watching over all of us, but I have done something terrible to Producer Joe. I will get to that shortly, but I'm going to ask you my favorite question for the third time today. We are recording our third episode today. How are you, Tony?
Scared.
That's a good answer. Well, I don't even know how to broach the subject, but I have usurped this episode like Robert Baratheon and the Iron Throne. I have duct taped Producer Joe metaphorically to his chair, and now I suppose you are my second hostage.
Yeah, I'm here under duress. When Nick slides his chair back and then moves it forward, it's like someone cocking a shotgun. That's what that was.
That's amazing. Okay, well, what I mean by that is I wrote the segment for today's intro and for the idea for this episode, and I sprung it on Joe and Tony. And so if this stinks, I have no one to blame but myself. And so I wrote a segment. This segment is called Mistakes. I am a mistake-making machine. And so, Tony, I charge you to tell me about a mistake that you've made and what you learned from it. But I really want it to be something good. Not too good, but good.
Yeah, I'm perfect. I've never made a mistake in my life.
I agree with that.
No, I went to visit my brother last weekend with my family. We went up to Mackinac Island in Michigan. It was a beautiful vacation. And at the end of that, we went to one of my favorite restaurants in Ypsilanti when I'm up there, which is called the Bellflower. It's awesome. They have a different menu every day. It's farm fresh ingredients, stuff like that. They had a delicious cake. And then better than the cake was the ice cream on top. And my brother ate all the ice cream. Because there was one last bite of the cake. I said, "Hey, Pete, you want to split it?" He ate all the ice cream. He gave me the cake. I thought, wow, that wasn't the way I wanted to split it, but okay. And then everyone said, "Hey, that's not fair." I said, "No, I could never be mad at my brother." And one of the mistakes I made when I was younger was I had a friend who was an asshole to my little brother. And we'd been friends for a long time. And my parents would be like, "Bring your brother along to go hang out with this guy." And I would say no. And it really hurt my brother's feelings. And it took me years. At this point, I think I've been friends with this kid like almost 10 years. When I realized, oh, you're an asshole to my little brother. I'm just not going to be friends with you anymore. You know what I mean? And the mistake that I made was being scared of losing one relationship that I'd had for a long time. And in that damaging another one. Although, my brother and I are great. I hurt his feelings when I was 16. People make mistakes when they're 16. But that one haunts me forever.
It's a very sweet, but also kind of sad story.
Yeah.
What kind of mistake have I made? I am going to say that the lesson that I learned recently is that I, for better or for worse, do too much for people. And I will go out of my way, which is really like a people-pleasing dishonesty thing because I want you to like me. And when I do that, I inevitably raise some expectation of your response in order to me, like trying to help you or go out of my way or whatever. And that breeds a resentment. And also, I have found that I often get disappointed because people don't go the same distance out of their way for me or for anyone else. And so I just like had to wrestle with that. And so I have tried to rein that in. I have a new-ish rule. It's that I won't meet you more than halfway. If you meet me halfway, I will go as far as you want to go, right? But you also have to be putting in the effort. That is an amalgamation of mistakes that I've made.
How do you measure halfway? Metric, imperial?
I don't think you have to. I think no matter how you measure the distance, halfway is halfway.
Wow, you outsmarted my smartass joke. I think one of the things I've always, maybe I'm too literal minded with meet me halfway, is just like, where is that? And you feel it in the moment, you know what I mean? But I like that Nick's mistake is being too good of a person. He's too humble.
It's not what I meant.
You're holding me hostage. I got to get back at you somehow.
You son of. Anyway, the purpose of that segment is that recently I had learned about some mistakes that were made here at Answering Legal. So I'm going to tell you, Tony, about some communications that I've intercepted and a review that we received and some stories about some conversations that I've had internally here with our account setup team and our support team, with Jake, who leads our technology team. There's teams. There's lots of teams. And the first one is something that I think is our fault, me and you, us, is a lack of education to our customers in recent times about call forwarding and how you use call forwarding for an answering service.
Okay, I mean, that seems really basic, like sort of bottom level. In order for an answering service to work, you do have to forward your calls to them. So how does the mistake happen?
Good question. So let's assume that, again, like being super humble, that you and I and the rest of our team are good at our jobs, and that Answering Legal is known, liked, and trusted by law firm owners and attorneys and lawyers across America. And someone reaches out to us. What ends up happening is they go to the website and they either call someone and they speak to an account executive here, or they submit a web form and someone from our team reaches out to them and tells them about what we do, who we are, and how we build, all that sort of good stuff, and encourages you to try a free trial with us. What we tell our customers in that communication is that what we're going to be doing is forwarding their calls, which just relies on like the infrastructure of the phone company. When we get the call, when it is received by us, our technology obviously like does a bunch of things in order to populate messages and call flows and right, it just basically takes a bunch of like buttons and puts them in one place, and then instructions, and we train the receptionist, right? That's the complicated part for us. But really what ends up happening when you hire an answering service is you're really relying on the telephone company to forward your calls every single time that it gets missed to us. You can explain that as many times as you want. What our job is to educate lawyers that you have so many phone numbers and you have to forward them all to us. Mm-hmm. And what you can do is you can have separate lines where when we answer the call, say you have and you should, a Google LSA number, right? And every time somebody calls the number that gets displayed by Google, it forwards to your LSA number. And every time that phone number rings, you know you just got an LSA caller. And we can send you the message on that line that says LSAs. Or you have one for Google Ads. It's a Google Ads number. Or you have a billboard one in Spanish, and that one goes directly to our Spanish-speaking receptionist. And it says Spanish-speaking, I don't know, Spanish billboard, whatever, right? You label it whatever you want, and you have to forward those numbers to us. And what happened was we had a communication with this lawyer, and he's like, great, I forwarded my whole phone system to you guys, not realizing that he had a separate number for his LSAs, and his LSA phone calls weren't being answered. And he was just like, you guys aren't answering my LSA calls. And it took this email being intercepted by me to realize he definitely didn't forward the LSA number, and nobody told him that he had to go in there and forward the LSA number.
And the thing is that there's advantages you can do to that, right? Like you could have different call forwarding protocols by number. For example, if you wanted to have the opportunity to answer phone calls, but you just don't speak Spanish, you can have one call forwarding protocol that lets it ring in your office first for your normal line. And then for your Spanish speaking line, whatever you put on, se habla español, your billboards, that goes straight to us, and our Spanish speaking receptionists handle it. There are ways that you could weaponize this, but you're right. I mean, call forwarding is both complicated and old, which makes it really hard for people to understand.
it's just not something you think about at all. And so the other thing that I want to point out, and then we'll go on to mistake number 2, because I want to get through this, because I don't want Joe to have to be duct taped to his chair for too long. I want to set
He
him
can breathe
free.
through his nose, though.
I didn't duct tape his mouth. He can shout for help.
Okay.
Just know that no one is helping him.
Space, no one can hear him scream.
No, he's just. I like your metaphor. I do, but he's just taped to his chair. He just can't interfere with my usurping of the podcast. But I can hear him. Oftentimes, especially with smaller law firm owners, and especially like a few years ago, a lot of the lawyers that we worked with were what I would call like one lawyer, one receptionist, right? Or like a shared receptionist at the front of the office building. And at the end of the day, the receptionist leaves, and your business calls are still getting forwarded to Answer and Legal, right? Like, say the receptionist just in there, does whatever, it goes to Answer and Legal overnight. What ends up happening though is, because you only have the front office reception and you want to communicate with your clients, you'll give out your phone number. You're fine if existing clients hit your phone number, whatever, and they leave you a voicemail or they text you or so on and so forth. But those clients, when they give your name out as a referral, give out your cell phone number. And the law firm owners will be inundated with these phone calls to their cell phone and not have it forwarded to the answering service on a conditional basis. And so that is my other hot tip take for lawyers using answering service, is if you have that set up and people are calling you on your cell phone, just put the service on your cell phone too. Save yourself a little headache.
I mean, honestly, I talked about this with Nick. Before voicemails, people had answering services. And if you weren't at home, I read the novel Rosemary's Baby. It was published in 1967, takes place in Manhattan. Everyone has an answering service, and they know their friends' answering service receptionists by voice. And they're like, oh, I got this one. She's not very nice. And it's just a completely different world. Obviously, it was 60 years ago, but their personal phone calls were being forwarded to an answering service if they missed it. I'm not saying that everyone should go out there and get a personal answering service. That's kind of a lot. But if you have people, as the children say, blowing up your phone, conditional call forwarding, it's exactly the same as having voicemail, in that if you don't answer the phone, it's just going to go to someone who's going to take a message. Except your clients will love it. You might think, oh, it's impersonal to forward my personal phone number. Like, what if my wife calls me and gets the answering service? First of all, I think she's going to think that's hilarious. I would. And 2, it's going to just sort of close the loop on anything that could come in that was business related to your personal phone number. And you just won't have to deal with any spam calls anymore, you know?
I used to have the service on my phone, and I would do catering still on the weekends. And I forget who it was, but I was dealing with some like event coordinator or whatever, and they called me and they got the answering service. And when I spoke to them later, they were like, who was the person answering your phone? When they answered it so professionally, and they said, like, Nick Werker's office, how can I help you? I stood up and I started reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I was in tears. I'll never forget that. It was so funny.
I mean, think about how impressed your friends will be when they speak to your receptionist on your personal phone number, you know?
All my friends know what I do.
Well,
they're not impressed by me.
Your friends.
They know what I am. I sort of and accidentally muddied 2 of the mistakes together because producer Joe was not here to rein me in. So I do want to talk specifically about call forwarding, because here is, I told you about the LSA problem and I talked about forwarding the number. Now I have a separate call forwarding problem. Separate. Okay. This person, the LSA thing, we resolved that. And I intercepted the message because whatever, right? Like, I'm involved in a lot of conversations here. I am, as Jamie Ding, the Jeopardy contestant who I love and admire, I am, as what he refers to himself as, a bureaucrat. And so I'm involved in a lot of things that go on here and making sure that things are improved all the time for our clients. The other thing that happened is we recently got a bad review. We got this bad review, and I read this review, and it instantly made sense to me. And it instantly made sense to me because I've been in this business for so long, and I know where misunderstandings happen usually. So what the core of this review was is, again, the sentiment of the person was we weren't answering their phone calls. And when he tested his own line, he got an IVR. And so he heard the IVR and he sent us an email to cancel because he was like, you guys aren't even answering. And I hit this IVR and it said like, press 1 to speak to this. And it said press 2 to speak to that. And I read this review and I knew instantly what it was. And I checked in it and it was the case. This law firm owner changed phone providers. And when he changed phone providers, it dropped the call forwarding. And he must have gone to like one of those voice over IPs, which is a good idea, right? They're cost effective and they have a lot of features and there's specialized ones for lawyers, which is great. But I think the like out of the box setup when you install it is that it has an IVR. And so the call forwarding got dropped. The calls weren't making it to us. And we don't use an IVR. We have all humans here.
Yeah, why would we use that? Defeats the purpose of an answering service.
And so there will be people who call in and they're like, I have the automated system. And if they press 1, it'll send them to the answering service. And we're like, turn that off. And they're like, I don't know how. And so we turned it off for them. And so I read that and I was like, oh no, we didn't. And this is how I know that I am a paranoid person, is I didn't blame this person at all. I immediately took ownership and I was like, oh, it's not being communicated to this person in a process that like, if there's any major changes made to your phone system, that it could cause the call forwarding to sever. And it's not like we forward your calls. We don't own your phone numbers. We don't want to do that. We want you to own your phone numbers and be able to do whatever you want with them. So if the call forwarding stops working, we will never know. Right. And oftentimes, like if people want to cancel, they unforward the calls themselves because they're educated. But we didn't have this. And especially in recent times, we should update our welcome packet, Tony, to make that disclaimer that like any major changes you make to your phone, you have to check with us.
And you could take, I mean, not just an answering service lesson from this. You can take an intake lesson from this, which is like, that is an intake mistake we made, right? We should be letting these people know when they become customers, the rules, the expectations. And the takeaway from that is to do the same thing for your law firm, right? Like when you see a hole, as Nick identified in this review, it's easy to push the blame away from yourself, to blame the person. Like in this case, right? This guy didn't know that he had to make this change when he changed phone providers. That's not actually his fault because it was our job to educate them. In that same way, when you get a bad review, you lose a client, whatever's a negative outcome. We had a recent episode about, taking accountability. Look at what happened and see if there's, we talk about intake here. There's plenty of other things that could have gone wrong. But if there's something that they didn't know, that they should have known, that mistake is in your intake.
Yeah.
As it was here with ours.
And so when I intercepted this, I obviously investigated a little bit. And I read through like the communications on, because he sent an email to cancel and we were like, why are you canceling? And we soon figured out why he was canceling, all that. I read all the notes. I spoke to the person who handled it and I was like, should I call? And they're like, I called him. He wasn't hearing it. It is what it is, right? Like the relationship is over. And I made a response. I did reach out and I said something to the effect of like, thanks for helping us learn this lesson. And that, like, I really do believe in what we do here. And if you're open to it, I'd love to have a conversation about how we can, how we're implementing this feedback. And if you ever need our help in the future, I hope you don't feel like you can't come back. Like, there's no hard feelings. We own that this was a miscommunication and a misunderstanding and our part in it. And ultimately, that's like the most that I can do, right? I'm not going to harass this guy into coming back. And I hope he has a good experience elsewhere too. It is what it is.
One of the advantages of working in a business that doesn't have a bunch of, let me put it this way, no one's going to make an ethics complaint to answering legal for a mistake that we made. Where if you're a law firm, someone absolutely could make an ethics complaint to your bar association. And most of those are about miscommunication or lack of communication. So something to keep an eye out for.
That's a scary thought. That's a very scary thought. Anyway, here is my mistake number 3. Is one thing that I actually do want to embark on is there is such a crossover, and we see this all the time. We have Guy and Conrad on, we have Christopher Early on, we have Delisi Friday on, and there's such a crossover between law firm marketing and relationships and all of that with intake, right? Marketing wants you to do a better job at intake so that they can just say that they did a good job marketing and getting you these wanted cases.
Make their numbers look better. Yeah.
Yeah, and people are invested in your success, right? Really good people are invested.
I don't mean that in a negative way.
I wasn't correcting you. I was saying, I really wasn't correcting you. I was trying to be additive. I'm sorry.
Sure.
So I get very, very interested, even though we don't do any local search for like very obvious reasons, but I get very interested in how smaller law firms do local search. And so I follow people like Darren Shaw from White Spark. I follow the Near Media guys now from Guy and Conrad and all that. And I've learned a lot about local SEO and how many listings and premium listings that lawyers have to buy and where all of their information is. And it's very important for all that to be congruent. However, lawyers, and especially marketing companies out there, love tracking numbers. I know we've already covered that you want to make sure all of your tracking numbers are forwarded to the service because we can help you delineate those messages and where they came from, even though I encourage you also to be using call tracking like CallRail or What Converts. I do love What Converts. Shout out Michael Cooney. I encourage you to look through all of your listings and look at your phone numbers and see what's out there. Because I have seen recently that switching between marketing service providers or switching between listing providers or anything like that will leave outdated addresses or phone numbers, and people will call those and they'll be out of service and they'll be like, well, this person doesn't practice law anymore and I can't get in touch with them. And so that's my final thing is go out and review your local presence and make sure that all of your phone numbers actually ring to your office.
One of the scariest things, every time I try to find a business and it says like permanently closed or something like that, one of the scariest things I can imagine is someone makes a mistake, right? Like phone numbers off. People start leaving reviews on Google saying, hey, this place is closed. And then Google marks your business as permanently closed. And you're just not, you're open, but you're just like, why is no one calling my phone number? I imagine that's a nightmare that some business owners can have.
I have a worse nightmare for you. A worse nightmare. First of all Google business profiles have a button on it called Suggest and Edit. And so your competitors can go onto your Google business profile and suggest and edit. Now, whether or not Google approves that edit is up to the Google lords. And I'm sure that you can figure out a scheme in order to change that information. And so you do have to be monitoring that. Again, why you should be monitoring your local presence all of the time to make sure that all of these things are on and working toward your business. But I do have a story. This is years ago now. The company here was getting a little bit bigger and I work very closely with the owner. It's still a family-owned business. And he was having a conversation with this lawyer who her firm, I want to say, was in Brooklyn. And she was like, I have this website. I just want somebody to look at it. Like, I'm getting a new website. I want this. I want that. And the owner was like, I have no idea what I'm talking about. And literally takes the phone and gives it to me and is like, hey, can you talk to this lawyer in Brooklyn and help her like go over things? And I was like, sure, listen. Send me your website, send me like X, Y, and Z, whatever I asked for. And I just looked at it. And the first thing that I found, first of all, she had a website that was made for her that she had never seen before. There were 2 websites of this woman. I sent her the second one. I was like, why do you have 2 websites? She's like, I've never seen that before in my life. It had her address on it, phone. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever heard. The second thing that I discovered is that Google Maps had mistakenly put her address because she had typed it in. I guess it was like a rented space as Chipotle. It was a Chipotle.
Nice.
And I was like, this is Chipotle. And so we went in and we corrected it. And like, she's like, the Chipotle is across the street. That's crazy. And I was like, yeah, it is crazy. And like people look at that and they're like, why is it in a Chipotle? And then maybe they don't call you because it doesn't look so legit or it's just confusing.
I'd assume that when I went to a consult with that lawyer, I would get free Chipotle, so I would sign up.
I'm sure. I don't know the legality of that, but I don't think it would be a bad thing.
If I was running a business out of a Chipotle, all of my clients would be getting a free meal every time we had a meeting.
You do love Chipotle
for it. You know what I mean?
I had Chipotle last night, so I can't judge you. Anyway, that's all I got. Those are all my mistakes for today. And now I will let you not be on camera for the rest of the day.
This, again, was all Nick's idea, so if you don't like it, blame him. But I think that one of the things that lawyers often fail to recognize is how, because everything is so specialized for lawyers. I mean, we're an answering service that specializes in answering for attorneys, right? There's CRM specialized for lawyers, etc. It's easy to fall into the silo of like, if it's not specialized advice for lawyers, for examples, it won't really work. But like, you could take a lot from the mistakes that Nick is owning up to here, that we're discussing, that we've made, and that people are, customers make, and apply them to your business, even if you don't have an answering service. Because at the end of the day, intake is just something that everybody's got to do. Regardless what, your mechanic probably doesn't have a great intake process, but they do have an intake process, and the better their intake process, probably the better you think they are as a mechanic.
That's very interesting. I hope I don't need a mechanic, though. But I guess you also hope you don't need a lawyer.
Yeah.
Good metaphor. Very good
Absolutely.
metaphor. Anyway, I am going to go drink more coffee, and I am going to cut producer Joe loose from the bonds of his duct tape shackles to his cushy office chair.
Yeah, absolutely. If you liked like I said, if you didn't like this episode, go find Nick on LinkedIn and yell at him for locking up Joe. But if you do like this episode, listen to more of our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon Music.
And I just want to say, because I didn't write an outro for this episode, because producer Joe, I really did usurp this.
We're winging it right now.
We referenced Answering Legal and Answering Services several times today because, wow, I wrote a self-promotional episode. Look at me go. I'm learning. Our listeners, if you enjoyed anything that we talked about or identify with anything that we talked about, you can head over to answeringlegal.com to learn more about our virtual receptionist service. There's also a link in the bio of this episode to get a 400-minute free trial of the service. And in more context, which we should elaborate on, that is about 14 days worth of a trial for Answering Legal.
Yeah. I mean, if you have any other questions, shoot us an email. We would love to do like a mailbag episode at some point. So you can probably email Joe at answeringlegal.com if you have any questions that you'd like us to answer. When we have enough of them, we'll put together an episode, hopefully. Thank you all for listening to the podcast.
Joe, I do not promise to never duct tape you to your chair again.
See how
See you next
we
time,
just
everyone.
lose Joe and this just falls apart at the end. See you next
It
time.
fell apart.